Topic: Tools and equipment. At the end of this lesson you should be able to understand the following concepts. Components of the propulsion system of a vehicle, identification, description and purpose. Gearbox and types of gears. Clutch. Diff. Wheel locks, diff lock, wheel hub lock. Universal joints or cross couplings. Greasing points, and bearings. Financial implications related to equipment. Tractors. Purchase versus rental of tractors/equipment. Choosing a tractor. Standardization. Mechanization. Pneumatic and hydraulic tools, identification and basic operation. Compressor. Hydraulic press. Pneumatic tools. Hydraulic jack end. Spray painting equipment. Introduction. Learning content that was dealt with in Grade 10, 11 and Term 1 Grade 12 must link in with the current content that will now be dealt with. Grade 11 Safety. Grade 12 Safety. Grade 12 Tools and Equipment. Grade 12 Tractor Systems. The purpose of this lesson is to cover content associated with components of a vehicle's propulsion system and pneumatic/hydraulic tools. Concepts and skills. Types of gears. Straight gear. Very noisy. Helical gear. Teeth run at an oblique angle over the outer surface of the gear. Advantages: hold long. Disadvantage: force to the side due to oblique angle of teeth, especially when heavily loaded. Double helical gear. Herringbone rat. The teeth run obliquely in both directions. Looks like a herringbone. Advantages: very little wear and tear. Disadvantage: cannot be used in gearboxes of cars, because it cannot enter from the side. Other types of gears. Types of gearboxes. Sliding gear type gearbox. Constantly incoming gearbox. Synchronized gearbox. Introduction. The gearbox of any vehicle, implement or equipment plays an important role in the performance of the device. Gearboxes can be massive, large, complicated units to small simple gearboxes. In toy carts, gears are made of nylon, copper and hardened steel, depending on their application. Most equipment and vehicles on the farm are equipped with some type of gearbox. The purpose of the gearbox. The gearbox is usually in the first place the connection point with the primary drive component, whether an engine, electric motor or an external drive system. This connection point is usually provided with some type of coupler. The gearbox is driven by the primary drive component, which provides the momentum for the gears in the gearbox with the main drive shaft. The gearbox then provides drive to the component it needs to be able to perform the work, e.g., to turn the axle of a wheel or to turn the blades of the cutting machine. The primary purpose of the gearbox is therefore to be able to regulate and adapt the power provided by the driver to specific conditions and uses. Sliding type gearbox. Constantly incoming gearbox. Synchronized gearbox. The gearbox is also equipped with synchronizing rings that are placed between the gears. These rings are usually made of brass and thus helps with the smooth shifting of the gears when the tractor is at speed. Purpose of the clutch. The clutch is a component used to disconnect the drive system from the gearbox, equipment or device. Parts of the clutch. What are clutch linings made of? Asbestos. The basic operation. When the clutch is not activated, stepped on, the clutch plate is permanently pressed against the flywheel of the engine. If the gearbox is in gear, it is therefore connected to the engine. If the gearbox is in gear, it is therefore connected to the engine. The clutch plate that will break the clutch. The gearbox is no longer connected to the engine and gears can be shifted. When the clutch is released, the gearbox will be reconnected to the engine and move together if the engine is running. Move together if the engine is running. Do not drive because the gears are not engaged. The clutch plate is made of special material that can handle a lot of friction and torque. Reasons for installing a clutch on a tractor. Drive must be disengaged when shifting gears. Drive must be disengaged when the tractor is switched on. The clutch must be disconnected to increase engine speed and then give greater torque to the power takeoff shaft. Allow the operator to stop the tractor, belt pulley or power takeoff shaft without shutting down the engine. Characteristics of a good clutch. It should connect smoothly and not get caught, slip or shiver. It must be able to transfer the maximum load from the engine without slipping. When the clutch is disengaged, it must be completely disengaged and not prone to dragging. The clutch must be of such a nature that it can be easily disengaged by hand or foot. The friction material used on the clutch plate must not only be highly wear resistant but must also be able to withstand high temperatures. Types of clutches. Single plate clutch. Multi-plate clutch, hydraulic clutch. Claw clutch. Differential/diff. Name 3 reasons why diffusers are fitted in the rear axles of tractors/cars. Changing the direction of rotation. Speed reduction. Transmitted torque evenly distributed between the two rear wheels. 2. Describe the operation of the conventional differential when the tractor moves around a turn. When the tractor moves around a turn, all the wheels move around a common point. The outer wheels on the curve therefore tend to turn faster than the inner wheel. This means that the half-axle arm of the outer wheel rotates faster than that of the inner wheel. The difference in speed between these two axle arms causes the differential's conical gears to rotate about the individual axis. Since these small axles are attached to the casing and thus to the large gear, they rotate with it and still drive the rear wheels, despite the fact that they do not rotate at the same speed. What is the function of the final drive? Further decrease in speed. Increase torque/traction. Spare parts of the diff. Diff lock. A locking differential or differential lock is a variation on the standard motor differential. A locking differential can provide higher traction compared to a standard or open diff by limiting the two wheels on an axle at the same rotational speed, without taking into account the available grip or differences in resistance experienced at each wheel. A lockable diff is designed to overcome the limitation of a standard open diff by essentially locking both wheels together on an axle as if on a common axle. This forces both wheels to rotate in harmony, regardless of the grip or lack thereof available to the individual wheels. Application. Racing engines often use locking diffusers to maintain traction during a high-speed maneuver, or when accelerating under extreme conditions. Some utility vehicles such as trailers, forklifts, tractors and heavy equipment use locking diffusers to maintain traction, especially when driving on soft, muddy, or uneven surfaces. Four-wheel drive vehicles used for off-roading often uses a lockable diff to prevent that it gets stuck when driving on loose, muddy, or rocky terrain. Lockable diffusers are considered essential equipment considered for severe off-road conditions. Many such vehicles have a lockable diff on the central diff, between the front and rear axles, rear and front diff, or any combination of the three. Disadvantages. Because they do not work as well as standard diffusers, automatic locking diffusers are often responsible for increased van closure. Some older automatic locking diffusers are known for making a clicking or slamming sound, with locking and unlocking when the vehicle moves around corners. This is annoying for many drivers. Also, automatic locking diffusers will have the ability to affect the steering of a vehicle, especially if the diffuser locking mechanism is located in the front axle. Apart from tire abrasion when navigating high-friction, low-slip surfaces, it causes diff locks. Understeer, and if used on the front axle, increased power on the steering wheel will be required to vehicle to turn. Furthermore, Automatic diff locking mechanisms can cause loss of control on ice, where an open diff would allow one wheel to turn and the other one to claw if it did not transmit power. Closing hubs 4x4. Where is the locking hub located? Lock hubs are located on the front wheels of your 4x4 vehicle. They look like innocent little gear discs in the middle of your front wheels, but there's a little more to them. The locking hub is, in essence, an axle divided in half, left and right. They work separately, spin free of each other and allow the drive of the rear axle to push them where you steer them. It's in two-wheel drive mode, just like in a rear-wheel drive car. Once unlocked, you do not have the ability to put your vehicle in 4WD. Universal joints / cross coupling / U-coupling. A cross coupling, U-coupling is a coupling or joint in a solid shaft that makes it possible to bend the shaft in any direction and is commonly used in shafts that transmit rotational motion. It consists of a pair of hinges located close to each other at a 90 degrees oriented angle and connected to each other by a cross axis. A configuration known as a dual cardan drive shaft clutch partially overcomes the problem of jerky rotation. This configuration uses two cross couplings connected by an intermediate shaft, with the second cross coupling in phase with the first cross coupling to cancel changing angular velocity. In this configuration, the angular velocity of the driven shaft will correspond to that of the drive shaft, provided that both the drive shaft and the driven shaft are at equal angles with respect to the intermediate shaft, but not necessarily at the same level, and that the two cross couplings are 90 degrees out of phase. This configuration is commonly used in rear-wheel drive vehicles, where it is known as a drive shaft. Applications. Typical applications of cross couplings include drive shafts, aircraft, appliances, control mechanisms, electronics, instrumentation, medical and optical devices, radios, sewing machines, textile machinery, and tool drives. Grease points and grease nipples / pump for applying grease to a grease nipple. Grease nipples are accessories that fit on mechanical systems to apply lubricants, usually greases, under moderate to high pressure using a grease gun. Grease nipples are rarely found on consumer goods, equipment or cars because maintenance-free products better suit the general public. They are still widely used on industrial, agricultural and mining equipment. Bearings. A bearing is a machine part that restricts relative movement between the moving parts to have only the desired movement. The design of the bearing can, for example, allow for free linear movement between the moving parts or free rotation about a fixed axis. Bearings are generally classified according to the type of action, the movements allowed, or the direction of the loads, forces, acting on the parts. The term lowered is derived from the verb to wear. A bearing is a machine part that allows one part to carry another, that is, support it. The simplest bearings are lower surfaces, cut or shaped into a part, with varying degrees of control over the shape, size, roughness and location of the surface. Other bearings are installed in separate devices in a machine or machine part. Purpose of an bearing. Reducing friction in bearings is often important for efficiency, reducing wear, facilitating use at a higher speed, and avoiding overheating and premature failure of the bearing. Maintenance and lubrication. Many bearings require periodic maintenance to prevent premature breakdown, although some bearings such as liquid or magnetic bearings require little maintenance. Most bearings in high-cycle applications need to be lubricated and cleaned regularly, and require regular adjustment to reduce the effects of wear and tear. The working life is often much better if the bearing is kept clean and well lubricated. Uses for bearings. Hard disks. Roller skates. Flywheel energy storage systems. Guitar. The Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. Earthquake-resistant buildings in San Francisco. Wheel bearings. Engines. Fishing reel. Economics associated with agricultural technology. Financial implications related to tractors, equipment and tools. Purchase versus rental of tractors / equipment. Choosing a tractor. Standardization. Mechanization. Expenses and costs. Fixed expenses, current expenses, work or floating capital. Depreciation. Interest on capital invested. Accidental expenses. Financing costs. Repair work. Oil. Fuel. Smear. Work. Supervision expenses. Parts. Fuel. Wages. Repairs, contract work. Transport. Factors to consider before buying a new tractor. Points to consider before buying a used tractor. Factors in terms of drive. If a tractor's price is reasonable, the following information must be obtained from the seller. Power or tractor power. kW. Availability of parts and services locally. Rigidity of construction. Simplicity of control. Mechanisms. Ease of driving. How established and reliable is the agent? Are parts readily available? Is the tractor a good model in the area? What warranty or service facilities are available from the agent? Collect information about the tractor. Type of use. Maximum drive. Texture of the soil. Type of tractor. The reason why the tractor is sold. The type of work for which the tractor was used. The year model. The working hours of the tractor. Multipurpose / versatility. Reliability and durability. Reliability. Price / kW. Operating cost. Look at the mechanical parts of the tractor. Take a test drive. How many working hours are on the tractor and is the odometer still working? Once the price has been agreed upon, it will be determined whether it is more economical to buy a new tractor or used tractor. What repairs were done? Who was the driver? Engine problems. Excessive engine smoke. Blue smoke indicates oil consumption and that the engine can no longer be in very good condition. Excessive black smoke indicates that the injector pump will need attention. Check the oil level before and after the ride. Note if there was oil consumption. Look for oil leaks after the ride. Note the oil pressure gauge. It should remain constant at the highest pressure reading. Symptoms indicated by different color smoke on a diesel engine. Black smoke, white smoke, blue smoke. Incorrect fuel injection timing. Dirty or worn fuel injectors. Too much fuel. Faulty turbocharger or turbo leg pressure booster. Faulty or dirty exhaust gas recovery system (EGR). Incorrect valve clearance. Wrong fuel / air ratio. Dirty or limited air cleaning systems. Engine overload. Poor fuel content. Cool operating temperatures. Operation at high altitude / mountains. Incorrect fuel injection. Timing. Defective fuel. Injectors. Low cylinder. Compression. Worn valve guides, or seals. Cylinder walls and / or piston rings worn. Cylinder glaze. Piston ring burns. Wrong grade oil. Oil is too thin and runs past rings or valves. Fuel dilutes the oil, making it too thin. Excessive buildup of carbon in combustion and exhaust openings. Cooling system. Check the water level in the radiator before the test drive. Wait until the engine has cooled down just after the test drive. Check the water level again to see if there has been water loss. Carefully monitor the temperature gauge during the test drive. Excessive fluctuations can indicate a problem. The temperature should remain fairly constant after the engine reaches operating temperature. Check for water leaks on the test drive while the engine is still hot. Check water pipes and make sure the radiator is not damaged. 1. Radiator. 2. Upper water house, in. 3. Radiator pipe. 4. Lower water house, out. 5. Thermostat. 6. Thermostat housing. 7. Electric radiator fan. 8. Thermal timer. General observations. Test steering wheel and wheels for excessive play. Condition of the battery. Condition of the panel / instruments and meters. Condition of the tires. The operation of hydraulic components. The condition of the electrical wiring and lights. The action of the brakes and emergency brake. What is meant by standardization of farm implements? All farm implements and tractor parts must meet certain requirements, making them easier to replace and manageable and so that it can be used back and forth. Name the benefits of standardization. Any implement can be used with any tractor. The same machine and parts can be used on different tractors. Parts can be purchased from any agent instead of just one. Parts can be supplied to the farmer relatively cheaply, due to mass production. A reduced quantity of spare parts can be kept in stock for maintenance and service purposes. If a farmer decides to buy a new tractor, he will not need to take a special course to put it in. To maintain. Mechanization in agriculture. It provides technology and advances in agriculture instead of using equipment pulled by animals to improve production, quality and yield. What is the purpose of mechanization? To help the farmer produce better, faster, cheaper and more cost-effective. Pneumatic and hydraulic tools identification. Identify the following pneumatic tools commonly used in the world store.
Please like, share and subscribe to the channel for more future educational videos.